Colorado getting a lot of attention from presidential candidates this week. Democrat Hillary Clinton here in Denver on Tuesday talking about jobs and student loans.
We're going to help people with student loans refinance their loans to lower rates, and then we're going to let young people who want to start something new defer your federal student loan payments for up to 3 years.
And Republican Donald Trump came to town on Friday, speaking at the Western Conservative Summit going on this weekend, immediately taking aim at how Republican delegates are chosen in our state.
Colorado taught me a lot about politics. I learned a lot because polls came out that I was going to win Colorado and doing really well in Colorado and look good, and I was looking forward to it. And then all of a sudden I didn't get the delegates. I said, but what happened to the vote? Do you remember? And I started to learn, quick learner. I'm a quick learner, but that was an amazing week. Do you remember that? And we had some of you folks probably were out there with a little picketing, a little craziness. And I think they'll probably end up changing. I think they're going to change it next year. And I think you're going to go out and actually vote.
And here to talk about the importance of these visits are Republican strategist Sean Tonner and Democratic strategist Steve Welchert. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we get to the candidates, however, let's talk about what's going on in Colorado. Let's talk about the U.S. Senate race. Darryl Glenn won the GOP Senate primary Tuesday night and will now face incumbent Michael Bennet in November. Glenn ran his primary campaign on a shoestring budget. Volunteers were working. I don't think he was really paying anybody to help him in this race. So now we've got a very big disparity between how much Michael Bennet already has, $6 million almost, and Darryl Glenn, who's got maybe $100,000 right now. How do you win a U.S. Senate race when you are broke?
I think the way you win is you hope and pray Donald Trump has a great July. Because if Donald Trump has a great July and Colorado is competitive, that means dollars will flow in that will benefit Darryl Glenn, not only above him, but directly to his campaign. The Republican side is probably going to be about $40 million for the U.S. Senate race if it's competitive in Colorado. I know the Democrat side is going to be similar. And he's running against an incumbent U.S. Senator whose president has now gotten over 50% on a job approval rating. So it's going to be a tough July, but also a telling July.
I actually think that the money might be lower in Colorado because it won't be a targeted race by either committee, by the Democrats or the Republicans. I think they'll let Colorado move off into the side and not be serious. And for Democrats, I got to tell you, I was surprised at election night, Tuesday night, kind of the lack of enthusiasm, the small crowd, even at the Western Conservative Summit in Denver. Democrats are a little alarmed at how far down at the bottom of the barrel Republicans have fallen in Colorado. It's a little alarming.
Yeah, I think it's a time right now where it's unsettling within the Republican Party. I think the Democrats experienced it a little bit with Bernie Sanders' campaign, but we have a full gale force winds within the Republican Party right now.
Well, the Bennet campaign's already comparing Glenn to Donald Trump, issuing a statement here that on Tuesday night it says Darryl Glenn in the Senate would rubber stamp Donald Trump's agenda. He's too extreme for Colorado, so well, is that a fair comparison?
I mean, Cory Gardner won't endorse him, and you can't have much fun with that. I mean, Cory called him a buffoon not that long ago, and Darryl Glenn's on board fully. So they're gonna paint him as a Trump-Glenn ticket. They're gonna do that to people all over the country. But it's gonna really stick here because Darryl Glenn actually believes this stuff.
Yeah, I think Glenn does have an impressive resume of his own. A military veteran, served in local government, was actually endorsed by Ted Cruz, so more kind of the traditional Republican wing of the party, not the Donald Trump wing of the party. But, a lot of this is what campaigns say right out of the chutes, to start trying to frame. And obviously, right now, they want to frame Glenn as a Trump rubber stamp.
I just want to touch one more thing on Glenn. You said he needs Trump to have a big July. How does that happen, and what does that mean?
Yeah, so the way I think it happens is first you stabilize your campaign, and I think Trump took steps last week or the last 2 weeks to put some more professional, seasoned political operatives at the helm that maybe can help keep Trump inside the lanes. You saw him start to use a teleprompter, which is a novel thing for candidate Trump. And then I think, as we just saw last week, former Denver coach Mike Shanahan hosted a high-dollar fundraiser at his home. So starting to get the traditional donors back into the campaign. That all needs to happen in July. all of the battleground states are within the margin of error, so within 4 points between him and Secretary Clinton. So I think if those things start to roll, then you'll see this race be competitive.
Well, let's take a bit of a curve here as we talk about Donald Trump. He opened up the Western Conservative Summit Friday morning, and one of the things he talked about, without a teleprompter on this occasion, was about Bill Clinton's chance meeting with Attorney General Loretta Lynch, whose office is leading the criminal investigation of Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server as Secretary of State. Here's what he said.
We're going to make our government so important, responsible to the people, not to the special interests. The special interests control your government, folks. The special interests. I mean, you see what happened today where Bill Clinton goes in the other day into an airplane. Just happened to be, just a coincidence, you know. He just happened to be at the airport at this time. Think of it. Just happened to be at the airport. You know, when I first heard the story, I said, no, you're kidding. I don't believe it. I thought somebody was joking. But it's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's a very serious thing. And to have a thing like that happen is so sad.
Steve, I see you grinning.
Yes.
You know,
go for it.
Democrats are just perplexed. I mean, one day Bill Clinton is a genius. The next day he is a knucklehead, an absolute knucklehead. This was an ex parte communication. If it's not illegal, it's absolutely unethical. Lawyers in both parties are just spinning around going, what in the world just happened? He took a woman who I think is perfectly wonderful, Loretta Lynch, and has kind of marred her career and her path, all because he wanted to go have some kind of conversation. And I suspect she kept him at bay on this, but what was said, no one will ever really know because no one else was in the room. But it was just really inappropriate and an unforced error by the Clinton campaign.
And you're a Democrat saying this.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I mean, you're having a heyday with this probably, Sean.
Well, and I think the effects are yet to be seen. The immediate effect was Attorney General Lynch had to recuse herself in this and hand it over to the FBI, the email incident. And so I think the odds of Secretary Clinton potentially being indicted in the fall, and again, you look at things that could propel Trump to candidacy, Great July, an indicted Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, you could say President Trump.
And either way it goes, indicted or not indicted, someone's going to scream and say that it didn't go right.
Yeah, and absolutely unforced error.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And getting back to Trump and his message, though, and having a great July and staying on message, he does have that tendency to go off message. And, it's a possibility, right?
Absolutely, and I feel for his press secretary because every day you're probably wondering, are you doing damage control or are you on the offensive? I will say last 2 weeks he has started to put together a professional team, seasoned. We will see if they can last 30 days with
Can he
Trump.
be more disciplined, I guess, is really the question.
That's the challenge. That's the $1 million question, or the $1 billion question.
I think we have two of the most undisciplined politicians we've ever seen in Bill Clinton and Donald Trump in this election cycle. I mean, without Carvel and Stephanopoulos and Begala yelling in Trump's ear, or yelling in Clinton's ear, he'd be off the rails too. And they're not there for him now. That's why he's making some of these unforced errors, I think. And Trump kind of refuses that kind of help. Took him weeks and weeks to hire a communications director, and we'll see how long that person sticks around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the Western Conservative Summit, he talked also about business, which might be his best area of expertise, and it was about jobs and keeping more jobs from leaving the U.S.
People are sick and tired of being ripped off with our jobs leaving our states, with our jobs leaving our country, with the money. They get the money, they get the jobs, we get nothing. We get unemployment. That's what we get. We get unemployment and no taxes. And folks, we can solve that situation so easily.
We can solve it so easily.
Yeah,
He never gets into specifics.
To date. So again, July, I keep talking July, August, I think the American public wants to start seeing policy positions from candidate Trump, away from the politics into actually substantive policy positions. How are we going to increase trade? How are we going to increase jobs? I think if he's able to do that, I think he starts to become a more presidential candidate.
I know Hillary Clinton, we talked also in town this week, her visit to a Denver work center coinciding with the release of that Benghazi report, finding the military did not react fast enough when attacks broke out, leading to the deaths of 4 Americans.
I'll leave it to others to characterize this report, but I think it's pretty clear it's time to move on. Thank you all very much.
Well, this report isn't going to be the end of this issue for Ms. Clinton, is it, gentlemen?
I actually think it will be. I think that I mean, the Benghazi study took longer than the 9/11 report, longer than the Warren Commission on the Kennedy assassination. I mean, they beat this horse to death. There's nothing there. If they continue with that tack of opposition, it'll hurt their campaigns, I think. Benghazi's over.
Sean?
I would disagree in that it's another layer of the cake that makes the Clintons. And it just seems like cycle after cycle, year after year, there's some type of scandal, some type of intrigue around the Clintons, whether what she did as senator, what she did as first lady, what he did as president, and then again, you know, going back to Attorney General Lynch having to recuse herself. I think this is going to play out all the way through October.
In the last 30 seconds, we're weeks from the conventions. Will we have vice presidential names before the conventions?
I think so. I think it's starting to get winnowed down on the Republican side. And I think Trump would probably do something prior to the convention, hopefully to start to tighten that gap of the, right now on average in the battleground states, he's trailing by about 4 points. Maybe get a 2-point bounce and then post-convention get another 4 to 5 point bounce.
Trump's got to find somebody who'll actually take the job. But I would be shocked if Hillary Clinton didn't announce her running mate in the middle of the Republican convention, right? I mean, just to kind of take a little bit of the juice away. So that'll happen for for Democrats as well, earlier.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing who those running mates will be. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.